Okay, according to my clock, it's 11 o'clock. Are we ready to go, guys?
You bet.
All right, John, let me just introduce John and John, you can take it away.
Thank you, Eric, and welcome all. Appreciate you tuning in again today for the bi-weekly webinar with Melissa Bova. There's a lot to report today, so we'll get to it very promptly. I do want to remind you that this information today is designed for the use and benefit of our restaurant, hotel, travel, and tourism partners and other friends of PRLA. It is off the record. It's not designed for the press. We take all press inquiries very seriously and spend as much time with them as necessary, but it's not for this moment. So if you're with the press, please disconnect. And with that, I'm happy to introduce Melissa Bova. Melissa, it's all yours.
Good morning, everyone. I mean, I put a lot of thought into today because I thought to myself, you know, there's not a lot happening, not a lot to talk about. So maybe I would do a slideshow of my life story. But then, you know, I just decided, you know, we'll just get through all of this information in about, 10 minutes and we can just go on with our day. As you all know, I'm kidding, but I think today's update is going to be a long one. So I hope that you are caffeinated or you are drinking already, whatever you prefer. So let's jump right into federal, and then we will spend so much time on everything else. Restaurant Revitalization Grant Program, the RRF, as we affectionately call it, opened up about 2.5 weeks ago. As you know, everybody is eligible. Everybody can apply beginning 2.5 weeks ago. So they were only processing applications for minority, veteran, women, and socially disadvantaged businesses for the first 21 days. But I hope that you filed initially, because the portal is closing on May 24th. That goes to show that there are just so many things that are being, and hold on, I just realized I sent some data and it wasn't included in the slide. So now I need to look up my data. So for the first 21 days, they're shutting it down. So if you did not apply, if you have friends that don't listen to my webinar every week and didn't hear me say you should apply initially, those friends that waited the 21 days won't be able to apply if they wait 22 days. So if you're planning on applying, you need to do it now. The portal will be closing on May 24th. They will not be accepting any other applications. So far, the fund has already been, if all of the people who have applied as of last week are eligible, which I would like to think everybody put in perfect applications. I know all of you did, but if they all applied, the fund is already overextended. We already have over $29 billion in applications. As you know, there's only 28.6 billion in the fund. So already the fund is oversubscribed. Let me answer the question that you all have been emailing me for the past 3 days. Just because it's oversubscribed doesn't mean that's all the minority, veteran, women-owned businesses. That's just the total applications that have been received. So if you got in early, you still have a chance to get the funds. It just means that they have so many applications in totality, inclusive of all received, beyond the minority, veteran-owned, women-owned businesses, that it's already at the 29 billion. So don't presume that you're not getting any funds if you applied first thing like we told you to. If you waited a week or two to apply, you might not be eligible. We might be running out of funds at that point. Like I said, it really just depends on how quickly the funds do run out. To that end, the question is, what is next? And I think I talked about this 2 weeks ago, but I'll reiterate it again. When we talked to our congressmen and women a few weeks ago, and we said, are you going to put more money in the RRF? And they said, I don't think so. Then as we looked and we saw the money run out very quickly, we basically said, what's going to happen when all of these tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of restaurants apply for the RRF and they're told that they're not getting any funds? You will all rightfully lose your minds. We have been more mitigated than anyone else. You are eligible for these funds and you should be eligible for these funds. So what we expect to happen and what we are already asking you to do is to ask for more funds from the federal government. Do I think that we will get, if you remember the initial RRF, we said 120 billion. That's what we need. If we come back and say we want 120 billion, they're going to say, well, you already got kind of 30. Why are you now asking for in totality 150 billion? Would love to do it, probably not going to fly. What we're hearing is that we're looking at a 50 to 60 billion extra. So we might not reach that 120 billion, but the hope is try to get 50 to 60 billion more put into the fund so everybody who is eligible and is taking the time to apply can receive those funds. Second question I'm getting for all of my friends out there that have more than 20 locations and are not eligible for the RRF. What we're hearing on all fronts is that it is not going to be expanded. So if you're not eligible for now for the RRF, you shouldn't expect to be eligible if they put more funds into it. And quite frankly, the response that comes from the government, from the Senate and House leadership is, we don't have enough right now for those that are eligible. Why are we making even more people eligible when we know we already don't have enough funds? So the bad news is for those of you that are not eligible now, we don't foresee any changes to include you in those funds. But of course, we are going to be focusing on other funds to get through all of this. What you can do, I know you read John's daily updates every day. I know I do, also because I help write them. But you can start signing petitions that will go to your congressional delegation, urging them to put more funds into the RRF. We cannot do it without Congress passing a bill. So we need more funds to be put in. You need to start reaching out, asking for those funds. Don't wait and see if you're going to get them before you reach out. Just presume you're not, because a lot of people are not, and we warned you of this, but start your outreach now to make sure that you are reaching out to make sure we're getting that extra 50 to 60 billion dollars that you all need. We are running out of time in terms of that pressure. We all know it's going to take us years to recover from COVID, but now that mitigation will be ending, Congress might not feel that pressure all that much longer. So we need to make sure we get those funds sooner than later. Also federally, it's not on here, but for my hoteliers, if you have not been reading your emails, you should. There is a push from our hotel side of things, from the American Hotel and Lodging Association, Asian American Hotel Owners Association, about the Save Hotel Jobs Act. That is a piece of legislation that would provide funding to hotels, because all of my hotels on this call know you are not eligible for RRF. So get you funds to be able to bring your employees back, to be able to pay them, get grants for PPE, and also be able to bring back those employees that you laid off. So it is a kind of a comprehensive bill to help the hotel industry. So that is something that we're advocating for as well. John participated in a meeting with Congresswoman Dean's office the other day as we start pushing for that. So we have kind of the RRF front and then the hotel front as well to try and get funds to the entirety of the hospitality industry. Unemployment. We're gonna talk about this so much. Here's where we are on the unemployment front. You all probably, since you also probably follow Twitter, the Pennsylvania's Department of Labor and Industry announced today that the federal unemployment supplement, the $300, will end September 4th. That's not new news. That is actually when it's supposed to end. Now, a lot of states are ending it sooner, recognizing that when you are giving people an extra $300 a week, they might not feel the incentive to go back to work. Not all of them, maybe some of them. We do not expect that, and I'll talk about that in a minute, in Pennsylvania. But our concern right now at the federal level is we want to make sure that supplement does end at the federal level. There is a push to extend it until the end of the year or even longer. And we know that is just another barrier for you to be able to bring employees back and go back to normal. But we're going to be activating on that as well at the federal level to make sure that on September 4th, that supplement ends, and it ends definitively, as opposed to refunding it for the foreseeable future. Not a lot of update on the minimum wage front. There's really, as I mentioned before, not a lot of action. It was like kind of in all of our minds 2 months ago. We were all thinking that something was going to happen, but it really has gotten a little quiet, and it sounds like it's going to once again be something that people campaign on, as opposed to actually doing anything about. You got to love politics in so many ways. You have to love politics. But minimum wage at the federal level is not something we're seeing. It could be something we see at the state level. It is absolutely something we're talking about internally at PRLA every single day, but it's not something that we see coming down the pipeline in the near future. And if anything does come down, we want to make sure that nothing takes effect until you overcome from COVID in and of itself and all the mitigation and the recovery efforts that you are going to need. So that's kind of where we are federally. Next slide. The questions heard around the world about the election yesterday. I'm going to start with other results, and then I'm going to go down the rabbit hole of the voter referendums. It was in some ways interesting, some ways less interesting when it comes to results. For those of you in Pittsburgh, you know that Mayor Peduto did not win his primary, which means that he is not winning re-election, because whoever wins the primary will become the next mayor of Pittsburgh. It is Representative Gainey who won that primary. He is a state rep based in the Pittsburgh area. So we will have a change in Pittsburgh itself as it pertains to the mayor going into 2022. We're also, and for my friends in Harrisburg, we are going to have a change in our mayor there as well. Mayor Pappenfuse was defeated by Councilwoman Wanda Williams. So she's expected to be the next mayor in Harrisburg. So those are kind of the two mayoral races. Philadelphia, the big one we were watching there was the district attorney's race, which you would say, why do you care? The reason we cared was because you had the existing district attorney, Krasner, that was up for re-election, basically ran as a socialist, was not endorsed by the Democratic Party, going against another candidate. And the question is will your rank and file Democrats kind of bring the party back, as opposed to the more left-leaning direction the party is going? The vote yesterday showed that no, the moderate Democrats are not bringing the party back, at least not in terms of the DA race. So for my friends in Philadelphia, we continue to have a lot of uphill battles as it pertains to legislation that might hurt the industry because of the push that's coming from some of those candidates. The voter referendums, they did pass. I got a few emails from some of you, and these are the voter referendums regarding the emergency order. So the question is can the governor have an emergency order that goes longer than 21 days? Or can he declare it, and then can the legislature stop it or make changes to it after 21 days? So that's what you all went and voted on yesterday. They passed. Some of you, were surprised because you thought it was a close vote. Of the 18 referendums that have been on the ballot, now, of course, we're up to 24. But before this, 18 that have been on the ballot, 18 have passed. There was never any question kind of that they would pass. It was close because, you saw the party difference there. You have the Republican legislature that's pushing the referendums, and you have a Democratic governor that's saying, no, I should still have this authority. And that's why you see that split in the vote as it pertains to them passing. They did pass. So that's the next question is, what does this mean? Here's where things get joyful and complicated in so many ways. The governors declared the last state of emergency, the extension, on February 19th, extended it for 90 days. Guess when 90 days is? It's tomorrow. It's Thursday, May 20th is when the 90 days end. So we have a few options here. One, the governor tomorrow, when he would have to extend the state of emergency, could say, throw in the towel, I'm done. The people have spoken, I'm no longer declaring a state of emergency. Two, he could say, well, I'll extend it for 21 days because that's what was passed. So even though the vote hasn't been certified, I'm going to stick to the 21-day clock. Three, you could extend it for another 90 days, and then we will be in a court scenario of seeing if that continues or not. If the 21-day clock begins tomorrow, which it could, or it begin when it's certified, we're looking at a June 10th to June 15th endpoint as it pertains to the emergency declaration. This doesn't sound very exciting now because as we're seeing mitigation and all these things are ending, but it is something to be concerned about because when the emergency declaration ends, so does mixed drinks to go. So does your extension of outdoor dining. So those are items that will go away if we don't pass legislation before that ends. So whether you're happy or you're sad about the referendums passing, there are things that we need to do to make sure that things that we were able to do because of the emergency declaration can continue. So stay tuned as we work through all of that. There's going to be a lot of back and forth regarding if the state can still receive extra federal benefits if they're not in an emergency declaration. At the end of the day, what will happen after the 21-day clock or before it ends, the legislature will decide if they're going to allow it to continue or not. And this is not just a COVID situation. This is forever. So any emergency declaration that any governor makes anytime in the future, for whatever reason, whether it's opioids or there's a big flood or there's a forest fire, this would trigger the fact that to be extended after 21 days, it would need legislative approval. So this is, wherever you stand on it, this is definitely something that we don't have all the answers to, but because it passed, we are looking right now, our primary focus is to make sure that those things that you can do now don't go away when that 21 days ends. So that will be our focus within PRLA. Next slide, because I went over other results. Okay, so as I said, as I talked about outdoor dining and mixed drinks to go, we do have liquor bills on the move. As you all know, House Bill 427, not tied to the emergency declaration, but it's important to all of you because it increases the licensee discount from 10 to 15%. We're going back to normal. We hopefully are buying lots of product from the LCB again, and we want to make sure that you can utilize that 5% discount to reduce your costs. House Bill 425, outdoor dining, that is the extension that extends outdoor dining that you can do now. So your contiguous outdoor dining, it extends it to non-contiguous properties, and then until December 31st of 2022. So it protects us till the end of next year is what that bill does. So it gets us out of the emergency declaration place that we are in. Off-premise catering permits, it eliminates the 52 event cap, eliminates the 5-hour limit on your off-premise catering permits, again, until the end of December 31st of 2022. It allows you to keep your license in safekeeping. If you had to close and your license isn't safekeeping, there would be no costs, again, till the end of 2022. And then the last provision, which we never want to think about, but sometimes we do, is if you close and you still have product, it would allow you to sell that product to another licensee. So that 425 is big because that contains that that outdoor dining provision. House Bill 1154, that's making mixed drinks to go permanent, forever, at no extra cost. Like, trust us, we've gone 15 months of this. We've earned the ability for Melissa to still get her espresso martinis and margaritas to go. So that is on the move right now. So you're probably asking me, golly gee, Melissa, what can I do to engage and get these bills across the finish line? Well, now that we have Zach on board, who you all met, we can start doing more grassroots things. So please stay tuned. Probably tomorrow, we will be using our grassroots platform and asking you to reach out to your legislators in support of these bills. The fun part about liquor bills, and when I say fun, I say terrible, is that when you have an entity like PRLA that's moving bills and they're agreed to, you have other entities that are not as beloved as PRLA that think, I want to put my language in PRLA's bill because I will just ride those coattails to the finish line. Our goal is to make sure that there's nobody doing that because we want to make sure that the governor will sign all 3 bills, and his office has signaled that he will sign all 3 bills if they go clean. So we're going to be and clean means no other amendments involved that we don't agree to. So we'll be asking you to be sending emails just to reinforce to our legislators that these bills are important. They need to go quickly. They need to go before the emergency declaration ends, and my phone is ringing. And ask them to support the bill sooner than later. So that will be going out tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. More state updates. So many state updates. This is the other question you all asked. I talked a little bit about that September 4th date at the federal level. And the question is what is Pennsylvania doing? Because we are seeing some states take back the $300. So elect not to accept the $300 for their people that are collecting unemployment. There are a few bills that are moving right now. I talked about one 2 weeks ago. One would reinstate the work search requirement. So it would say you have to search for work. The problem I know we all have there is, people search for work and then they don't accept the job. So it's a step, not where we need to be. There's another bill that's being introduced by Representative Jim Cox that would end the $300 emergency unemployment supplement. Also would provide a return to work incentive. So essentially a bonus to people that return to work. To basically kind of make up for the fact of like, you might not be getting $300, but let's go back to work and you're going to get this as well. So PRLA supports that bill just as an opportunity to get people back to work. As you also may have heard, Pennsylvania is receiving $7.3 billion from the American Rescue Plan, which was the federal package passed earlier this year. It was the first big bill passed by the Biden administration. PRLA, and I think Steph or someone will throw it in the chat box, sent a letter to the entire legislature, basically ironing out or putting out what we believe those funds should be spent on to help the hospitality industry. So we have a whole list of items ranging from getting you more grant money to doing back to work grants, to get rid of the unemployment charges that you might see because of people still on unemployment. So we have a whole list of items promoting tourism that we think the legislature should consider that those funds be used for. So stay tuned as we work through that as well in terms of grassroots, because as you all know, there's $7.3 billion, which kind of like the RRF, there's going to be, in addition to PRLA, no less than 200 to 300 entities, other entities that are saying, I want that money for this reason. So we're all going to kind of be grappling to try and make sure those funds are used for specific industries. I'll keep on saying it. We might see the light at the end of the tunnel. We might be coming through the tunnel, but it's going to take time for us to recover. And we're really going to need all of your help to make sure the legislature knows that we still need support from them to recover from this. So please stay tuned as we activate you on that. We have, even if we aren't the second largest industry right now, I still think we probably could be. We really need to activate and show our strength as an industry to get the support for the funding to be used properly. Next slide. Just taking a moment to breathe. Wow. Last Thursday was fun, huh? So on Thursday, the CDC changed its guidance and all of our minds exploded. I personally think that it was done for me because actually Thursday was I'm very popular today. Thursday was my 2-week post-vaccination. So I just assumed that the mask changes were just in honor of the fact that I was 2 weeks post-vaccinated. But let's go over what it means. It's complicated. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to try and say it as clearly and eloquently as I can, and then you can hit me with 30 different questions because even when I try to explain it, it's going to be confusing. So stick with me. CDC on Thursday changed just masking as it pertains to wearing a mask for vaccinated people and social distancing amongst vaccinated people when they're standing and mingling around. And I'm going to get to that, why that's going to be confusing in a minute. They announced that on Thursday. So if you are fully vaccinated, you are 2 weeks post your second Pfizer or Moderna, 2 weeks past your 1 J&J, and you are indoors, you do not need to wear a mask. You don't need to wear a mask outdoors either. You don't need to give 6 feet between you and the person in front of you when you're waiting for ice cream. What this does not mean is it does not eliminate the 6 feet of social distancing or barriers you still need to operate your business. There seems to have been some confusion on that part. And I'll delve into that again and when I get down to the May 31st piece. But all it does is change the mask. It does not change the social distancing that you need to operate your business. So if there's a wedding, you still need 6 feet between your tables. The butt still needs to be in a seat. If you're eating or drinking, all of that still stays in place. But at the wedding, if people are vaccinated, they do not need to wear a mask at the wedding indoors. You are not the enforcer of this. So let me, and I say this in the way that the CDC says it. If somebody comes in without a mask, it is not your job, nor do we recommend, nor should you say, can I please see your vaccination card so you can prove to me that you're vaccinated? You could ask for that legally, I wouldn't recommend it. So the assumption that is that if somebody comes in without a mask, it is because they are vaccinated. And we have confirmed that with all the enforcement agencies. So they're not going to ding you for somebody in your restaurant, in your hotel, in your business without a mask. The assumption that you're making is that they're vaccinated. For people that are unvaccinated, if they decide not to wear a mask, then they're putting themselves at risk. If they don't want to get vaccinated, they're the ones that are going to get COVID. They're the ones that are going to get sick. They're the ones that are going to deal with the repercussions of that. So it's not your job to enforce. Second piece that, in terms of, like I said, in terms of compliance, what we have done, you saw it in the daily update on Friday. We'll probably throw it in the chat as well. You are, we made a sign just so you can cover your bases, essentially saying, if you are not vaccinated, you need a mask. You're not enforcing it, but you do check the box of just saying, here's the updated guidance. This is what you should be following. So that's where we are in the mask piece. The other question that I'm getting is employee mask wearing. Employees, and we got this, the OSHA's being a little funny, but OSHA's basically saying right now, follow the CDC guidance until we figure out what we want to do, which is essentially probably going to be the CDC guidance. This does your employees, if you decide that your vaccinated employees shouldn't have to wear a mask, because I know a lot of you are starting to think about it's summer, people are getting hot. They do not need to wear masks. It's totally up to you if you want your employees to wear masks, and it's also totally up to you if you decide for the safety and operations of your business to have people wear masks, guests and employees. You absolutely have the ability to do so, and if you want to do it, you should do it. It's totally up to you as a business. I can tell you on the employee mask wearing front, same thing applies if they're vaccinated. They don't need a mask, but we are seeing generally from, Melissa walking around and visiting members and hearing from members, a lot of you are still having your employees wear masks. Optically, it's just a decision that you're making right now. But again, it is completely up to you. There's no requirement that your vaccinated employees wear masks. Then there's the question you all have of the 70% requirement. I think a lot of people thought, oh, well, the CDC made the change. Does that mean that the governor's masking requirement until 70% is vaccinated goes away? No, because technically the CDC is saying if you're not vaccinated, you need a mask. If you are vaccinated, you don't. So, and that's the other thing, like all children that aren't vaccinated still need to be wearing masks. The 70% is that once we reach 70% of the population vaccinated, so 12 years of age and older, once we hit 70%, no one needs to wear a mask anymore, even unvaccinated people. So that's how the 70% still is operating. So the 70% is still there because once we hit 70, no one needs to wear a mask anywhere for any reason, anyhow. So I just wanted to stipulate how that changes. Also, wow, this is a day, isn't it? May 17th, that was Monday. You probably all saw about a week beforehand, the governor's office said we are going to relax event guidance, which is good. But at the same time, we were kind of like, if we still have to do 6 feet of social distancing, this doesn't make much of a difference, especially when, everything goes away on the 31st. But if this benefits you, this is good news. So it was a May 17th, indoor for events is up to 50%. 75% occupancy for outdoors. So keep all of this in mind. All of the mitigation that are on businesses to operate is still in place. So you still need, like I said, the social distancing between the tables. You still need to be seated if you're consuming food and beverage now until May 31st. So just keep that in mind. There is still probably not as much enforcement because I think everybody's tired, but technically you still need to be following that guidance until May 31st, which goes to our next bullet. May 31st, except for Philadelphia, which, as you all know, is where dreams go to die. Mitigation ends throughout the entire state of Pennsylvania. That's everything. That is, your butt can be standing while you're drinking a beer. You can dance on the dance floor with a drink in your hand. There is no social distancing needed anymore whatsoever. You can have 25 people lined up at the bar if you so choose. on May 31st. So May 31st, everywhere except Philadelphia, literally every single thing that I have been talking about for the last 14, 15 months is going away. And I know I will get more questions clarifying that, but that is on May 31st, except unvaccinated people will still need to wear their masks until we hit that 70%. I hope I'm making this as clear as possible because I know it's complicated. I was prepping myself. I was talking to myself before we began today to try and make sure I covered it all. Allegheny County is aligning with the state, just for all of you. I know we get that question as well. So Allegheny County is aligned with the state. Let's go, I think, next to Philadelphia. Okay. I think, and Ben, you could say yes or no, unless you were one of the people who just texted me. In Philadelphia, masking does continue. Ben, was the announcement today what I thought it was? Okay, Ben's nodding. So Philadelphia at 11 a.m. had a press conference on May 21st. If you are outdoors and you are vaccinated, you do not need to wear a mask anymore. But then Philadelphia will lift the masking requirement for vaccinated people indoors on June 11th. So that's your masking update for Philadelphia, because if you watch the news, that city is such a mess right now. You'd think they would just align with the state and make things simpler, but no. May 21st, there are a number of changes for events and stuff in Philadelphia. So indoor dining on May 21st, that is on Friday, will go up to 75% if you have updated your HVAC systems and you twirled 6 times and did 17 jumping jacks. You can go up to 75% indoors, 50% if you haven't. In Philadelphia, your chair back distance will reduce from 6 feet to 3 feet. Here's a fun question. Philadelphia is reducing your chair back distance from 6 feet to 3 feet, and the state is still saying you need 6 feet. I have asked that many times, and the state still says you still need 6 feet. So not quite sure how that's going to go other than the fact that Philadelphia really enforces its own items. So Philadelphia, you can go from 6 to 3 on the 21st. The 11 p.m. last call remains. Indoor catered events operate at 25%, 250 maximum. If you're not serving music, dancing, or having alcohol, 150 people if you do have music, dancing, and alcohol. That's fun. And then outdoor events in Philadelphia on the 21st will be at 50%, no maximum. And then on June 11th, mitigation will end. And I said, except for masks, except now we know that masking will end, except that unless we aren't at 70%. So unvaccinated people will still need to mask. But on June 11th, mitigation in Philadelphia will end. So we are still working through, of course, a lot of things there. And I look forward to when we can have webinars and I don't have to talk about mitigation or capacity limits ever again. I think that's the last slide for me. Yeah,
it is. I'll give you a break. I'm back at the office. I didn't die on the road, so here I am. We do have some meetings coming up next and over in June, so please keep your eye on that. The roundtable in Philadelphia on June 1st, and Bucksmont will be having a 5K, so you can register and check that out on our events calendar. Also on our events calendar, just to keep an eye out for the different golf outings that'll be happening and coming up in the near future. These golf outings will be for our educational foundation, for scholarships, for the relief fund, and for our PAC contribution. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Melissa will be back every other week in June. So June 2nd, June 16th, and June 30th. We will be having a webinar on June 9th in place of Melissa's with Post and Shell. Andrea is going to be talking about the upcoming salary threshold and what you need to know in October. Some other webinars that are coming up. Cumberland Valley is going to be hosting one about restarting tourism in the area. The NRA will have one about the PPP and loan forgiveness. And next week, the Department of Labor and Wage is going to be hosting a webinar, which I think would be important to check out if you are considering hiring youth. It's going to talk about the rules for youth, 14, 15, 16, 17. There are some different regulations that you need to know if you're going to be hiring someone under the age of 18. So please check that out. The job board, as always, please put your jobs up there. We are going to be doing some aggressive pushing of the staffing issue and the job board. So please get your jobs up there. Make sure that they're posted appropriately. Don't have deadlines that would discourage anybody from applying for the job, and keep your eye on them to keep making sure they're active. On the 16th of June, we are going to have someone joining us from the United Healthcare to talk about this individual and family plans, health plans that are being offered now through our association, with our association and theirs. It's affordable health insurance plans for yourself or your family, and it does not need participation with your employer. So please go to our website to check out that information. And if you have some questions, we will have someone here on the 16th just to give a brief overview of this. Lastly, ServSafe classes, as of June 1st, they will be in full. You'll be able to register, and we'll be up to 30 people in the classes. So please, make sure you keep yourself up to date with your food certification certs, because they will be checking for that and will ding you on that. I wanted to announce too that we awarded 13 scholarships this year to students. They were 13 $2,000 scholarships to students who will be attending school in the fall. So thank you for all who have worked on that process and for all that donated to the Educational Foundation. And please be sure to check out the dining commitment from ServSafe. They do have a map that they will mark your business on for the consumer to go out and see that you are participating with this program. It's a great way to promote your program and the safety measures that you're taking. And with that, I think, Melissa, we're going to the 26 questions, and some of them have been answered already, I think.
Okay, I was hoping you would talk a little slower, Hope. All right, so let's work through it. Comment from Tess: minimum wage talks have to be quieter because this situation has forced a wage war, and it seems we can't hire without drastically raising wages regardless. Yeah, it's kind of once upon a time pre-COVID, when we were talking about minimum wage, we were always like, the market really dictates it. And we're seeing that now more than ever, that the market is really dictating wages. So when we'd have people, saying, $13, $14, $15 minimum wage, we're kind of sitting there like, we're kind of there already, just to get people back to work. So yes, I think that is contributing kind of to the lack of push, because the market really is driving the wages to that number anyway. And I think Bob had a comment about outdoor dining might be more important than mixed drinks. And I think John did respond to that. I think it depends on who you talk to. We do have restaurants that don't have outdoor dining, that mixed drinks is really important. So for PRLA, I think both are important, and both, we need to get across the finish line. House Bill 425, did the House pass that? If yes, when is it expected to come up in the Senate? Yes, the House did pass it. If all stars align, and you all send that grassroots message that Zach's going to send out tomorrow, the Senate will be moving 425 next week. It does have to go back to the House for a concurrence vote, so that would take one day, but it should go through the Senate next week. The goal is to have it to the governor by that second week of June is when we expect it to hit the governor's desk, as long as we are all ensuring that the legislature knows how important this is. I think Gretchen, Ben answered your question, and I think how close to 70% are we? I think we're almost to 50 in terms of fully vaccinated. So we're getting there, but we're not as close. Every day you're going to see the news start reporting that. So buffets still need to be served, no self-serve. I think that was answered regarding for Philadelphia. You can do buffets in the other counties in the state. They can't stand and eat their food from the buffet, but you can have a buffet. But in Philadelphia, you still cannot have a buffet. When is a person considered fully vaccinated? It is 2 weeks after your second shot. So if you got your second shot today, you would be fully vaccinated on June 2nd. So it's not the day you receive your second shot, it's 2 weeks after you receive your second shot, or 2 weeks after you receive the J&J, which is a one shot. So So Gretchen, my indoor Philly wedding on June 12th can have no masks as long as they are vaccinated. And you maybe just put up a sign saying, if you are not vaccinated, you need a mask, and check that box. Then yes, you would not need masks for your vaccinated people as of the Philadelphia announcement today. Let's see. There's a lot of comments. The new health commissioner said no masks indoors in Philadelphia in most cases. What does that mean? I'm assuming it's the same as what the CDC guidance is. So the CDC guidance says no masks, but you still need them when you're traveling on mass transit, when you're on an airplane, in certain healthcare settings, you still need to wear a mask no matter what. So my assumption would be that the city would be aligning with the CDC on that. To that end, we do like to play this game with the city of Philadelphia where they make an announcement and it takes them 2 weeks to figure out what they mean. But the assumption is that they're basically aligning with the CDC, which is in most cases would not apply to restaurants. So restaurants and hotels would not have to have masks for vaccinated individuals. Late to the meeting for a restaurant PA is masking mandated, so much confusion. You have to wear a mask in a restaurant if you are not vaccinated. Your guests need to know that. If a guest is vaccinated, if your employees are vaccinated, they do not need to wear a mask. You are not expected to enforce masking. So the assumption is somebody comes in without a mask, they are vaccinated. And if they're not, they want to put their life at risk, that's on them. That's their own personal choice. But it is up to you as well. If you as a business decide you want to keep your employees masked, I would urge you to talk to your employees about that. And also if you want to keep a mask mandate on at your business, as we're seeing some places are, some people aren't. But if people that are vaccinated, we're going into restaurants, going into hotels, going into attractions, according to CDC and Pennsylvania guidance, they do not need a mask. But if as a business you want them to wear one, you can. Because kids as young as 12 are not able to get the Pfizer vaccination, they're now included in the total population needed to get to 70% for the mask mandate to end, right? Yes, that is our assumption, that the pool of people that are eligible, I don't know if the numbers that are being shared right now from the Department of Health reflects that. So we might see some tweaking there. I haven't seen the Department of Health address that. But yes, kids as young as 12, I would assume be part of the pool. But I'm wondering if at this moment they're still using the 18 and up. So we'll need to keep an eye on that. Yes, again, so in the suburbs or in 66 counties, you can walk up and serve yourself at a buffet. You just cannot in Philadelphia. On May 31st, not in Philly, can my tables be 3 feet apart? Molly, on May 31st, not in Philly, you could literally have your tables 6 inches apart if you want. You could have those seats just right back up on each other, which would make it very difficult to sit down, but technically you could. So you could do 3 feet, you could do 2 feet. There's no social distancing requirement in 66 counties beginning on May 31st. Can you legally ask to see your employee's vaccination card? Yes, you can, and you can ask your guests too, but I feel like that's a rabbit hole nobody would want to go down. Yes, you are covered. It is not a violation under EEOC in terms of asking for a vaccination card, and it's not a violation under HIPAA. Now, you cannot ask them for any health information. So if somebody says, I'm not vaccinated, you can't say what reason, what health ailment do you have that you can't. You can request proof of vaccination. You are legally allowed to do that. Let's see, I know, does Philly still require partitions at the banquet bars and food displays served by attendees? As far as I know, the partitions are still required in Philadelphia in all circumstances. Melissa, I know I asked you the question last Thursday. I know the PLCB came out with updated COVID guidance yesterday, but I'm still clear of their position as it relates to masking tied to our liquor license. Does this now go away given the CDC position on masking? Any additional highlights from the PLCB update yesterday that we should know about from a licensee standpoint? The LCB takes the guidance from the Pennsylvania Department of Health and turns it into those updates that you get, which feel like they're now 15 pages long as it pertains to enforcement. So the LCB has adopted the Department of Health guidelines, which is what I went over. So LCE is not going to be coming into your restaurant and saying you still need to have masks. They're going to also be assuming that people are vaccinated. Now, if you have a guest, even in that scenario, maybe you have a guest that just has like a giant sticker on their shirt that says, I hate vaccines, and isn't wearing a mask, you know, that could be a concern, but I don't even think you would get cited for that. So they've adopted the masking. You still need the social distancing for your table. So that's really what they're going to be enforcing. But the LCB has adopted, the LCE has adopted the state's masking. Their assumption is if people are not wearing masks, that they are vaccinated. Yes, the replay of this will be sent out. In Pittsburgh, after May 31st, if the individual businesses want to maintain some sort of distancing, they can still do so. So they can still do that, correct? Even if the CDC and PA state is lifting the mandate. Yes, and I want to scream this from the rooftops. This has been kind of crazy because we have been so mitigated for 15 months, and now it feels like in the course of 2 weeks, it's like poof, everything's back to normal. And I've talked about this before, that you might have guests that walk in and they see people lined up at the bar or see tables that aren't socially distanced, that might not make them comfortable. We still have a lot of people that are nervous about this. So you all, as business owners, operators, managers, can make the best decision for your business. If you still want some 3 feet of social distancing, you can absolutely do it. If you still want to require masks, it is your right to require masks. So this is just saying the state is not going to cite you, as they have in the past, for not doing these things. They are no longer going to be enforcing these things in any capacity, but you have the ability to protect your employees, protect your guests, and protect your business in any way that you see fit. And I think I'm nearing I really thought I was going to go over today. I thought I was going to go like a full hour and 15 minutes. So you guys are very efficient today, or maybe my long like speech on the masking stuff addressed a lot of questions. I know it's complicated, and I, as well as all of you, am counting down to May 31st.
I think we were just very efficient with our daily updates too. So I think we've just been covering a lot of.
We're 14 months into them. I have to be efficient at this point.
Exactly. Well, I think we're at the end. This is recorded. It will be sent out, and as always, it is posted on our website, so you can always go back to archived recordings of Melissa and see her lovely face at any time you want to. But with that said, please remember, you can submit your questions to us, to the individual staff, or to that the PRLA / coronavirus questions. We're always here to answer those questions. We appreciate you getting on this call each week. We'll miss you next week, but we'll be back on June 2nd. And I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. Thank you for joining us. Bye, Melissa. Bye, everybody.